At the age of 18, my father made my sister and me draw lots. Whoever drew the long lot wouldn't have to marry right away and could continue studying to go to college. My sister got her wish and drew the lot to study, but she didn't get into college. Later, she started businesses that failed one after another, racking up debts and hiding from creditors. In contrast, I drew the short lot and was forced to marry a disabled husband. 3 years into our marriage, my husband's leg ailment was cured. Not only that, but he also caught the entrepreneurial wave of the 1980s. He skyrocketed to become a major entrepreneur. Naturally, I became a wealthy wife. She said I stole her life. And while I was back in the village visiting my parents, she pushed me off a cliff to my death. When I opened my eyes again, we were back at the time of drawing lots. This time, my sister shoved me aside, snatched the marriage lot, and said with a face full of joy, "What's the use of studying? Marrying a good man is the real way out." I smiled too. The feeling of being in charge of my own life. My sister didn't like it. My father had just broken 2 wooden sticks from the firewood pile to use as lots. The younger sister practically lunged forward and snatched the short lot in one swift move. "Dad, I got the short lot. I'll be the one to marry." My father's face instantly darkened, and he scolded in a low voice. "Marry what? I haven't even explained the rules yet. Who told you to draw?" "That's right, Xiao Xue. Bring the lot over here and wait for your father to explain the rules." My mother also went over to pull Zhao Anxue. Watching my parents play off each other, my heart grew colder by the moment. In my past life, I was supposed to draw first, but my parents scolded me, saying I was the older sister and should let my younger sister draw. My sister drew the long stick and proudly slung her backpack over her shoulder to continue her studies, while my parents threw my backpack into the stove, telling me to give up any thoughts of schooling and stay home to get married. These were the rules agreed upon beforehand, and I thought drawing the short stick was fate, even if it meant marrying a disabled husband. I had no choice but to accept my fate. But in my past life, after my husband's leg ailment was cured and he became a major entrepreneur, I too became a wealthy wife. Only then did I realize that this seemingly fair lottery had never been fair at all. My sister told me on the cliff that our parents had spoken with her the night before, and that during the next day's draw, the long stick would be placed on the right, as long as we ensure that my sister draws the first lot. Then whatever kind of life she leads is entirely in her hands. I can't forget the time when my sister, disheveled from hiding from debt, looked at me with eyes full of hatred and told me the cruelest truth. She refused to listen to my explanation and angrily pushed me off the cliff. "The life you have now was all given by me, just asking you to give me 50,000 to help pay off my debts. Why can't you do it, Zhao Anmin? You're so selfish. You deserve to die." Before falling, I grabbed my sister's hand. "Since she called me selfish, if we're going to die, we'll die together. I just never expected that we would both get a chance to start over. Stop drawing lots. Mom and Dad. Sister has good grades. Let her go to school, and I'll be the one to get married," Zhao Anxue said with righteous indignation. Mom and Dad tried to stop her, but my sister had already thrown her school bag into the stove. "Xiao Xue, what are you doing? Have you gone crazy?" Mom rushed to rescue it. But even though she pulled it out as fast as she could, half the bag was already burned. "Mom, I'm not crazy. Let me marry him. Trust me, I'll definitely become a wealthy wife in the future," my sister said, grabbing Mom's hand. Mom's face turned grim. She was so furious she wanted to slap my sister, yelling loudly, "Wealthy wife. Sun Yulei is not only disabled but also has a 5-year-old son. Marrying him is jumping headfirst into a trap." Look, they knew everything perfectly well. But in my previous life, they still forced me to marry into that family. "Mom, what fire pit? Marrying the Sun family only brings benefits." My sister wouldn't listen at all and instead held my mother's hand to comfort her. "Now that I'm marrying him, Dad can get into the state-owned factory. There's a betrothal gift of 1,000 yuan. And Grandma can get treatment for her illness. Sun Yulei isn't some cripple, he's our family's lucky star." Of course, Mom and Dad knew this. Which is why they made us twins draw lots here. But they favor my younger sister, making me marry while she continues her studies. That's their real plan. I, Zhao, have always been fair. You two sisters must draw lots to decide. Dad snatched the lot back from my sister's hand. Roaring, "Dad!" My sister bit her lip, calling out unwillingly, "Draw lots." Dad held the drawing stick out in front of us. Long stick means studying. Short stick means getting married. Xiaomin. You draw. My dad was clearly out of his mind with anger. The stick he had snatched back spun in his hands several times. I couldn't help but breathe faster. This wasn't just drawing lots, it was drawing fate. Would Dad still put the long stick on the right, just like in my past life? Zhao Anmin, don't compete with me. You draw from the right and go study. My sister hissed in my ear through gritted teeth. I glanced at her. Her eyes were full of urgency. But father had always been authoritative at home. Even though Zhao Anxue was the most favored daughter in the family, she still dared not defy him now. If I still ended up drawing the lot to get married, then, given my parents' temperament, even if Zhao Anxue had 100 objections, she would still be forced to go to school. In my past life, I was forced to accept fate, but in this life, the initiative is in my hands. Left and right, two completely different lives. My breathing became rapid. My sister was also extremely anxious. Hurry up, my dad urged me. When I reached for the right stick, my dad visibly breathed a sigh of relief. My hand paused. And without hesitation, I pulled out the left stick. My dad frowned, his hand involuntarily clenching. If my guess is correct, the long stick I'm holding means Dad has no chance to pull any tricks. Ah, Zhao Anmin, are you trying to die? Who told you to take the left one? My sister screamed in fury and rushed over to start a fight with me. I calmly showed her the length of the stick. Zhao Anxue, who was about to explode with anger, saw that what Dad had left was a short stick, and all her annoyance vanished, replaced by a beaming smile. She snatched the short straw from father's hand. Mom, Dad, this is the marriage decided by drawing lots. You can't go back on it. No, it's fate. Mom and Dad's faces darkened, and in the end, they stormed back into the house, clearly washing their hands of us. Sister, it's settled. You go study, and I'll go get married. You're not allowed to back out. My sister warned me sternly. Don't worry, no one's fighting you over a cripple. I smiled as I watched my sister's school bag, which I had thrown back into the stove, burning fiercely. What cripple? Zhao Anmin, you're just sour grapes. My sister yelled angrily. A cripple like that, even if he were given to me for free, I wouldn't want him. Who's sour grapes? Thinking of Sun Yulei. I couldn't help but feel disgusted. That's because you don't know what he'll achieve in the future. If you did, you'd be envious of my good fortune too. My sister proudly lifted her head. I stared at her as if she were an idiot. Seeing my expression, she grew even more satisfied. In her past life, when she was able to attend school, she had been just as satisfied. She said I would marry a cripple, while she would get into university in the future, land a job assignment, and have a bright future ahead. As for me, I would just become a nagging housewife. Back then, I cried in anger and begged my parents there had to be another way to save Grandma, and Dad could find some other path into the state-owned factory. That very evening, my father grabbed the fire tongs from the stove and gave me a harsh beating. He said I was inconsiderate. Grandma was so critically ill. How could we afford any more delays? The Sun family was such a good household. If I married into it, I wouldn't even have to bear my own son. Instantly gaining a 5-year-old child, that was a blessing. Had found me a good path, yet I didn't appreciate it. But now that my sister was choosing to marry, they called it a pit of fire. I must study hard and get into university to completely change my fate. Seeing me reciting my lessons while heating bathwater, my sister smugly nudged me aside with her hip and proudly walked out of the kitchen. What's the use of studying? Marrying a good man is the real way out. That night, my parents had a big fight with my sister, scolding her for being immature. I don't know how to plan for my own future. But my sister roared like crazy. "You're just favoring my sister. You lied to me, saying that studying is the only way out, while letting my sister marry into a life of comfort. Mom, Dad, all the kindness you showed me before was just an act, wasn't it? You gave me small favors to make me grateful. But in reality, all the truly good things went to my sister." I listened at West House, shaking my head silently. Even after being reborn, my sister's pig-headedness hadn't changed at all. Not only did she fail to realize that I was also reborn, but even after our parents schemed so carefully for her sake, all they got in return was her accusation. It seems I'm not the only one whose heart has grown cold in this family. The next day, I returned to the classroom. There were only 3 months left until the college entrance exam, and in my previous life, I had spent a lifetime toiling at home. Although I had always longed to study, the knowledge from 10 years ago still required time to get reacquainted with. I greedily absorbed the knowledge from the textbooks, having only 2 steamed buns with pickled vegetables for lunch. Even when I went to the bathroom, I was memorizing the English words written on the back of my hand. Reading is my only chance. I will give it my utmost effort and absolutely change my destiny. After school in the evening, I was still at my seat furiously working on a math problem when someone tugged on my braid. "Zhao Anmin, where's your sister? Why didn't she come to school today?" Without even lifting my head, I continued solving the problem and casually replied, "She's getting married. She's at home preparing her dowry and won't be coming to school anymore." "What? How could she get married?" The voice beside me rose several pitches, even angrily threatening to flip my table. Only then did I snap back to reality and look at him. This is Wang Zhen. He was also my brother-in-law from my past life. I don't know when those two started hooking up, but in my past life, just like my sister, he didn't get into college either. At that time, I took all my savings and went to persuade my sister to retake the exams. Only through education could there be hope. This was an era of guaranteed job assignments. But at that time, Wang Zhen snatched the money from my hand, sneering, "What's so great about a fixed salary? Let's go south to start a business, become big bosses, and buy a car." I remember my sister's eyes shining brightly, telling me not to stand in the way of their fortune. It was only 3 years later that my sister had borrowed from every relative she could, and my father's salary had been advanced time and again. Yet it still couldn't fill the hole my sister had dug. She and Wang Zhen went into hiding, becoming debt-dodging defaulters. It wasn't until Sun Yulei's leg healed and he became a major entrepreneur, and I moved into the villa with him, that the two of them finally found me. They said they owed 50,000 outside and wanted me to help pay it off. This was the 1980s. There were hardly any households with 10,000 yuan, and they casually asked for 50,000. Where was I supposed to get that much money? They insist that because I live in a big house and bought a car, I must be rich, and if I don't give them money, it means I'm disregarding sisterly bonds and being heartless. Thinking back to how he put me on a moral high ground to judge me in my past life, I kept my distance from Wang Zhen. This is my sister's own decision, and Mom and Dad can't do anything about it. Upon hearing my words, Wang Zhen grumbled and cursed, then turned around and left. After finishing the problems, I leisurely packed up my things and headed home. The house was already filled with a lot of stuff, and my younger sister was counting them one by one, muttering to herself about what was still missing. She looked every bit a happy bride tobe. In my past life, I didn't have this many dowry items, just 2 quilts, and that was it. So much so that after I married into the Sun family, I was criticized by the neighbors for a long time. The favoritism had always been obvious. I took a deep breath. Fortunately, I now have the opportunity to study and can take control of my own destiny. I was about to go back to my room to continue reviewing, but my sister grabbed my hand. "Sister, come and help me decide, does my wedding dress look good? This is the most popular red suit right now, and we bought it from a big department store. It's a brand name item. Don't I look like a strong, independent woman? A tycoon?" My younger sister was visibly delighted. Her intention to show off was very obvious. After all, in my past life when I got married, Our family didn't buy such an expensive suit, we just picked up a cheap red sweater from a street stall. My parents said the family was struggling and grandma needed treatment, asking me to understand them. But how come when it comes to my sister, everything is completely different? Right. I nodded, not letting myself dwell in this negative emotion. Having died once, I knew all too well the importance of taking control of everything myself. After saying that, I went into the room and continued reading. Read, read, read even if you wear out every book. You'll never match me marrying a good husband. My sister followed me in, chasing after me with her sarcasm. I ignored her. Bookworm. She found it boring and stopped chasing me, humming a tune as she went to pack her dowry. In the evening, I was left alone, doing practice problems. Then there was an extra noise in the yard. My parents had gone to bed long ago. Where was that sound coming from? I became cautious. Just as I was about to go out and check, I heard my sister scream, "Mom! Dad! There's a thief in the house." The other person was shouting, "I'm not." Before they could finish speaking, my sister had already dragged Mom and Dad to chase them out, rolling and scrambling. "Xiao Xue, why didn't you grab him? We should take that thief to the brigade," my mom said, slapping her thigh in frustration. "Mom, the day after tomorrow is my big day. It's better not to spread bad news," my sister said, holding Mom back. Dad spat to the side and said, "I went all out. If he dares to come again, I'll break both his legs and make him crawl in and out." Our home fell silent again, and I went back to working on practice problems. The next day, Wang Zhen didn't come to school, and I didn't pay much attention. I kept doing practice problems relentlessly, returning to my studies. I was like a dried-up sponge that had finally found a chance to soak up knowledge from the textbooks, greedily and desperately absorbing everything. My younger sister got married soon. As her elder sister, I took leave on her wedding day to see her off. The Sun family came to pick up the bride with beaming smiles. Sun Yulei, on the other hand, arrived in a self-made wheelchair. The sister he had despised to death in his past life now wore a face full of happiness, even taking the initiative to go over and help push the wheelchair for Sun Yulei. In the crowd, Sun Huowang, the Sun family's 5-year-old son, joined in the ruckus, shouting, "The new mom is coming in! The new mom is coming in!" I shuddered, as the fear of being dominated by that demon child from my past life surged back again. I quickly followed to the kitchen to help. This family of parasitic ghosts. I no longer have to face them. Less than 3 months after my sister's wedding, I took the college entrance exam. The moment I walked out of the exam hall, I felt a bit dazed. After estimating my scores with the teacher, I practically floated home. My younger sister had also come home. She was sobbing uncontrollably, with bruises on her arms and face. Just one look and I knew what had happened to her. When my sister saw me, she shot up from her seat and covered the bruises on her arm with her sleeve. "Didn't do well on the exam, did you?" "No need to wait for the results. I'll have Mom and Dad pull some strings to get you into the sewing factory." "No way. The results aren't out yet. How do you know I did badly?" I refused outright. But my sister suddenly shrieked, "What else can you do if you don't go to the sewing factory? Let me tell you, don't even think about going south to work. You'll end up deep in debt and no one will pay it off for you." I let out a cold laugh. "I'm not going south for work. I've always been top of the school. And now that exams are over, the principal has already hired me at 5 yuan a day to tutor his nephew." "What? 5 yuan a day?" My father was the first to slam the table. My mother, who had been holding my little sister's hand to comfort her, now started trembling along with her. "Your dad only makes 60 yuan a month. And you're saying you can earn 5 yuan a day now? Impossible." My sister screamed and clutched her head. "Zhao Anmin, you're lying. Aren't you? How could you possibly earn 5 yuan a day?" My sister's voice was almost cracking, but I ignored the shock of the whole family. "I'm back now just to pack my things. I'm letting you know tomorrow I'm moving to the principal's house." I turned around to pack my clothes. My sister snatched them and threw them on the ground, her eyes red as she glared at me. "Don't think you're so great just because you can be a tutor. My future husband is going to be a big entrepreneur. We'll be the first in the village to build a villa and buy a car. I looked at her, completely calm. What does that have to do with me? Yeah. How is she doing? What does that have to do with me? On the other hand, how am I doing? What does that have to do with her? My sister was so angry that her chest kept heaving up and down, just as our parents were about to come over and mediate. My sister pushed them aside and ran straight back to her husband's family home. Your sister hasn't had it easy lately either. Try to understand her. My mom rambled on, defending my sister. Her words went in one ear and out the other as I simply told them about my summer plans. Fine. You've grown up. Your wings are strong. And you have your own ideas. We can't control you anymore. My dad took a drag from his cigarette and turned his back to me. I knew he was waiting for me to back down, waiting for me to admit I was wrong. But in my past life, I had already lived according to their wishes for a whole lifetime and lost my life in the process. I don't owe them anything in this life. I packed my things and moved into the principal's house that very night. The principal's nephew was now in middle school, at a critical moment preparing for high school entrance exams. I taught with great dedication. Besides teaching him, I myself continued reading and writing as well. The principal's home had many comprehensive books, but it lacked a certain kind of teaching aid. I remember that after the Sun family's son started school, teaching aids gradually became popular. In the following years, even top students' notes were being sold. I organized all the knowledge points I had summarized and categorized them accordingly. This sorting process took over a month. 3 days after I finished organizing, my admission notice arrived. I was admitted to Peking University. The principal personally delivered the admission letter to me. When he saw me, he was so excited that he kept patting me on the back, saying I was a promising student and that he knew I could make it. I hugged the admission letter from Peking University, crying and laughing at the same time. This is my destiny, the life I was meant to have. Go home for today and share the good news with your family. Tomorrow, the school will set off fireworks and put up banners to celebrate, the principal said, overjoyed, and directly gave me the day off. I went home, but I told the principal about the notice, and he said he would keep it at his place. Since this thing is so important, I have to put it in an absolutely safe place. I only found out when I got home that my younger sister had already been home for 3 days. When she saw me coming back empty-handed, her face immediately darkened. Aren't you supposed to be making $5 a day? Why have you come back with nothing but yourself? I looked at the bruises on her face and couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. If life is treating you badly, just get a divorce. There's no need to ruin your whole life over it. Zhao Anmin. Did you fail the exam yourself and now you're eyeing my husband again? Are you also reborn? Do you want to steal my good life? Upon hearing my words, my sister immediately exploded. She called me by my full name and pointed her finger at my forehead. The fierceness in her eyes was exactly the same as what I saw on the cliff before I died. I have no doubt that if I admitted right now that I was also reborn, she would absolutely grab a knife and kill me. What beast! I've never seen anything like that. Also, I only went to your husband's place once for the wedding, so don't pin that mess on me. A cripple like your husband is only a treasure to you. With those 2 remarks from me, Zhao Anshue's face turned as sour as if she had swallowed a fly, growing uglier by the second. I shouldn't have let my pity get the better of me and advised her to get a divorce. Some people deserve the suffering they endure. I pulled the door open with relief, eager to find my parents, but unexpectedly came face to face with the person in the wheelchair. Sun Yulei was right outside the door, and I didn't know how long I had been listening. He stared at me, his gaze filled with scrutiny. My younger sister Zhao Anshue, startled, yanked me backward with such force that my back slammed into the cabinet, causing me to gasp in pain. Before I could even ask what she was thinking, she shot me a warning glare and, pushing Sun Yulei herself, started walking out. Honey, you came to pick me up, didn't you? Let's go home and live a good life. I won't argue with you anymore. I'll treat Huang like my own son. I know this was an accident. I won't lose my temper with you again from now on. Zhao Anxuan nervously rambled on. quickly making her stance clear. Her demeanor suggested she was afraid Sun Yulei might be taken away by me. A worthless man consumed by inferiority and rage, only Zhao Anxue would treasure him like a gem. I shook my head. For someone who wants to die, no outsider's words can make a difference. Xiao Xue, stay for a meal before you go. Seeing this, my parents quickly called out to Zhao Anxue, but she walked even faster. Mom, Dad, there are things to do at home. I'll come back to see you another time. The voice came from afar. And in the span of 2 sentences, Zhao Anxue had already quickly walked to the outside of the courtyard. Anmin, you're finally back. My mom saw me as she entered the door and quickly put down her bowl to pull me over. Ever since your sister married Sun Yulei, she's been beaten every day. Go and talk some sense into her. If she can't go on, then don't. No matter how important the future is, it's not as important as life. My mom's face was full of worry, and a few more white hairs had appeared at her temples. I truly feel sorry for my younger sister, but in my past life, when I couldn't bear the beatings anymore and went home for help, my parents' faces instantly darkened. They pointed at me and scolded. How many people in these villages get divorced? If you divorce, what will happen to the Zhao family's reputation? Don't all couples quarrel in bed and make up in bed? Besides, I just took the 1,000 yuan bride price from the Sun family. Do you want your parents' backs to be broken by others' gossip? The face burning with anger overlapped with the face now full of worry, making me unconsciously ask, so what about the bride price from the Sun family? Is the bride price more important than life? Haven't you seen the bruises on your sister's body? Purple and blue all over. Just looking at it makes my heart ache. My mother said, unable to stop herself from pounding her chest. My dad took a couple of puffs from his pipe and said to me, your grandma's illness cost 200. Aren't you making $5 a day now? Help your sister pay it off. I couldn't believe it, my voice rising involuntarily. That's my money. What do you mean? Your money. Everything you've eaten, worn, and used for the past 18 years came from this family, didn't it? My dad tapped the table with his pipe, his tone and gesture full of warning. My mom, who had just been filled with worry, was now also overtaken by anger. You've only earned money for a month, and you've already forgotten who you are, haven't you? That's my money. My tuition for going to college. There's no way I'm taking it out to clean up Zhao Anshua's mess, I said firmly. My father was so furious he nearly slammed the table to pieces. You've completely gone against the heavens. If you don't help your sister, then forget about going to college. You don't even know if you've been admitted yet, and you're talking about college. You sure sound tough. My mother chimed in sarcastically behind my father. These are my parents. In her past life, Zhao Anxue didn't even get into a vocational college. They only felt sorry that she had worn herself out studying late into the night, losing weight. They even gave her 50 yuan, telling her to have some fun before heading off to work. Without waiting for my answer, my mom came straight over and started searching through my pockets. Luckily, I hadn't brought my wages back home. Instead, I left them together with the admission notice at the principal's house. My mom didn't find anything, and her face grew darker and darker. Where's your salary? Hand it over. No, that's my money. I shook my head. I knew my family wouldn't give me any money, so I was counting on the money from summer tutoring to serve as my capital for starting a business later on. If I gave it to my parents, I would miss the opportunity and lose out on many chances. If I could do it all over again, I would want to completely change my fate, become a wealthy woman myself, rather than trying to please my parents and seek that barely visible family affection. My parents couldn't find the money and angrily locked me in my room. They made it very clear, if I don't take out the money now to help my sister get a divorce and save her from the fire pit, they'll just lock me up in the house until I die. And I won't be able to attend this tutoring class either. Still thinking about studying. Even if you get admitted, I won't let you have the acceptance letter. My mother glared at me. There was hatred in her eyes. Having lived a second life, I understood perfectly well that all of this was likely my sister's doing. Even though she gave me the opportunity to study, she still doesn't truly want me to succeed. If I against her wishes, pass the exam. Our parents will find excuses to prevent me from receiving the admission letter. She wants me to rot in this village, waiting 3 years to watch her rise to glory. My sister, even given a second chance to choose the path she desires most, still fears that I might find another way out. However, I'm afraid it won't go as they wish. With nothing to eat or drink, I simply slept in the room. I wouldn't die from one night of it. The next day, I was woken up by the sound of firecrackers outside. The village chief's voice came from outside the door. Where's Xiaomin? Quick, tell her to come out. She got into Peking University. What? My mother's voice rose, thick with disbelief. I followed up, pressing for more. Chief, this joke isn't funny. If Xiaomin really got into Peking University, it'd be like our Zhao family ancestors' grave sending up smoke signals. That's exactly what's happening. Go call out the Suntobe College student. Old Xiao, how did you raise Xiaomin? Teach us too, won't you? Yeah. This is college. Not only does the state cover the tuition, so you don't have to pay a cent, but there's also a stipend. I hear it's as much as 10 or 20 yuan. You're really lucky your daughter can go to school and still make money for you. The neighbors in the village were all chattering away, and even through the thick wooden door, I could clearly feel their envy. Once the crowd had said their fill, I banged on the door from inside the room. Uncle Village Chief, please save me. My parents won't let me study. They won't give me food or water, and they're locking me up in this room to die. Don't listen to this girl's nonsense. My mother shrieked, trying to drown out my cries for help with her own voice. But I was frantically pulling at the door inside, and the lock on it rattled along. The sound of metal clashing was especially clear in the yard. This noise startled the villagers badly. My parents wanted to stop me, but they also wanted to make excuses. But yesterday, just as they were about to lock me up, I was about to climb out the window and escape. To keep me under control, they nailed the windows shut with wooden strips and locked the door from the outside. Now, without the key, it can't be opened. My mom had no choice but to go back to her room to find the key, the lock rattling noisily as she went. The villagers understood immediately and started lecturing my dad. Old Xiao, you've lost your mind. This is Peking University, the first one from our village. College graduates are guaranteed job assignments, so you absolutely must continue your studies. The sound of scolding came from outside. My mother also brought the keys, and the door was opened from the outside. I had been locked up all night, with nothing to eat or drink, and no bathroom in the room. The smell alone made it clear to everyone that I wasn't lying. Old Xiao, what are you getting at? The village chief asked, his hand trembling. My dad couldn't answer at all. He couldn't very well say. He was egged on by his younger daughter, thinking I'd fail my college entrance exams and end up racking up debts everywhere I went, becoming a burden to the family. Could he? My mom laughed it off. It's all a misunderstanding. Lao Zhao and I just wanted to temper Xiaomin's temper. Xiaomin has taken care of Xiaoxue since they were young, cutting grass to feed the pigs, working in the fields, and gathering firewood in the mountains. Which of these wasn't done willingly? A girl as sensible as her, what's there to temper? Aunt Zhang spoke bluntly. As soon as she finished, someone tugged at her. This is a family matter. Clearly not something suitable for pressing to the bottom of things in public. Why are you pulling me? Did I say something wrong? Aunt Zhang grumbled. The village chief quickly led people to beat the drums and gongs, offering congratulations to my parents. I was surrounded by the crowd. However, my lips were so dry they were peeling, and my stomach was growling with hunger. Uncle Village Chief, I want some water and something to eat. The village chief, with a dark expression, told everyone to go back first and come see the excitement tomorrow. My mother brought me water and food. I wolfed it down, looking like I was starving. The village chief sat at the other side of the table, watching me. The neighbors had left, and my parents quickly pulled the village chief aside. Village chief, Xiaomin got into Peking University, bringing honor to the village. Could you do us a favor? The village chief looked at me wolfing down food, thought for a moment, and nodded. I can. He was the village chief, If a college graduate came out of his village and landed a job later, he'd have some glory to share too. If he helped my family, then my family owes him a favor. From now on, no matter what, he can always come back to collect it. The village chief was calculating. My parents, having received approval, eagerly spoke up. Please write a certificate of emotional breakdown for our Xiao Shui, so she can divorce Sun Yulei. Back in those days, getting a divorce wasn't easy. You had to have a certificate from your work unit or the neighborhood committee. Even if I got into Peking University now, my parents would still have my younger sister on their minds. They truly feel sorry for her. The village chief had heard about my sister and Sun Yulei's situation after all. She came home with a bruised and swollen face every few days. So it was pretty obvious what was going on. All right, the village chief agreed. Then write it down now. I'll go get paper and a pen. My mom, delighted, was about to rush into the house. No. My sister let out a startled cry and charged in from outside the yard. She must have heard the commotion from home and hurried over, still catching her breath. I'm not sure how much she heard, but when she saw me burying my head in my meal, she snatched the bowl from my hands and slammed it hard onto the ground. Zhao Anmin, did you fail the college entrance exam? Now you're trying to set me and Sun Yulei up for a divorce so you can take my place. Right. She poked my forehead with her finger, her voice so loud it felt like it would pierce my eardrums. I knew you'd cause trouble today. Good thing I came back fast. You even invited the village chief. You're dead set on fighting me for him. I'm telling you. No way. My sister stared at me like a madwoman, her dark eyes fixed intently on me, as if she wished she could tear me apart right then and there. Even our parents, whom she used to love, now earned only hatred from her. I knew you were biased, always urging me to get a divorce, saying it was for my own good, but in reality, you still want Zhao Anmin to be a wealthy wife. The younger sister was hysterical. The parents were full of disbelief. They had doted on this youngest daughter since childhood. Their hearts were indeed biased, but they genuinely had her best interests at heart, even going so far as to lock me, their daughter who got into Peking University, at home. In the end, I ended up being resented by my spoiled daughter. Zhao Anxue, you're the only one in this family who acts like a mad dog, always eating shit. I got into Peking University. The village chief came to our house to deliver the good news, but it was Mom and Dad who, out of concern for you, insisted that he write you a divorce certificate. I said coldly. My sister froze, her mattig-like movements coming to a halt, a dazed look on her face. She murmured, "How could you get into university? Shouldn't you have had an early romance with Wang Zhen and ended up not even getting into a vocational college? How did you end up getting into Peking University? What early romance? Xiao Xue, you're married and not in school. Don't talk nonsense." The village chief's face immediately darkened upon hearing this. I was the first student from the village to get into Peking University, and he needed to protect my reputation to promote himself. He immediately retorted loudly. Everyone has seen how hard Xiaoman works at school. The principal even asked Xiaoman to tutor his own nephew, which is enough to prove her ability. My mother also went to pull Zhao Anxue away, although her younger sister's actions had just hurt her. She was still the daughter she cherished the most. Now, my sister's mental state also breaks my mother's heart. Not to mention the injuries on my sister's face. That bloody scratch looks like it was made by a child. It must have been done by that little demon from the Sun family. After all, Sun Yulei cares about his reputation. No matter how much he beats her, he wouldn't hit such an obvious place as her face. Xiao Xue, your sister really got into Peking University. Now all universities are state-run. Not only is tuition free, but upon graduation, jobs are also guaranteed. Don't be afraid. Even if we break ties with the Sun family, they can't do anything to you. My mom comforted me carefully, but my sister was severely provoked and completely lost her temper. She shook off my mom's hand and directly overturned the dining table in the yard. The plates and cups above crashed to the floor with a clatter. Mom, Dad, the village chief. And I couldn't dodge in time. All of us getting hit by some of the porcelain shards. Have you lost your mind? My father snapped, his face dark with fury. He was now itching to smash my sister's head with his pipe. Before, when my younger sister cried and made a fuss at home, he didn't say much. But now that the village chief is here and such a scene has occurred, my father feels that he has lost face. My sister, however, didn't care. In the past, if she noticed even the slightest change in our father's expression, she would immediately go over, act cute, and coax him. But today, she has been provoked to the point of madness and continues to curse without restraint. Zhao Anmin, you liar. You're all putting on an act to trick me, trying to make me doubt the path I've chosen, aren't you? Let me tell you, I won't fall for it, no matter what tricks you use. I will never get a divorce. Don't even think about ruining my good life. Fine. If you don't want a divorce, then don't come back complaining in the future. My father couldn't hold back in the end and struck my sister on the head with his pipe. Dad, my sister's eyes widened. My father's face turned completely dark. They were wholeheartedly thinking of my sister's well-being. Every time she came home to complain these days, they saw it and remembered it. Whenever they had a chance, they wanted to help her solve the problem. But today, my younger sister's behavior undoubtedly proved who the real ungrateful one is. My father was completely disappointed in my sister. Old Xiao Xue is still young. Don't be so harsh. My mother tugged at my father, trying to play peacemaker. But my father shook her off fiercely and shouted angrily, if you plead for her again, you can get out too. Fine. You think I care about coming home? When I become a wealthy lady, you'll all be begging me. Zhao Anxue was even angrier than her parents. She kicked the table on the floor and cursed as she walked. From now on, even if you beg me, I won't come back. Just as she said. From that day on, Zhao Anxue stopped coming home every few days to complain. She really seemed to be waiting for our family to beg her. After setting off fireworks at school to celebrate my admission to Peking University, my parents apologized to me, saying they were wrong and shouldn't have forced me to help my sister. My dad even took out 100 yuan, saying it was for my travel expenses to the north, and told me to use the rest to treat myself well while away from home. 100 yuan back then was almost 2 months of my dad's salary. This was their guilt, and also the most practical compensation they could think of. I didn't refuse. Money is very important in the early stages of starting a business. This is my family, and I will still need to support them in the future. Investing a little now is only right. One shouldn't fight against themselves. Any resources that can be obtained should be reasonably utilized. Ever since I got admitted to Peking University, my home has become lively all of a sudden. People from several neighboring villages came to my house, hoping to hire me as a tutor to properly teach their children. After all, getting into university meant guaranteed job placement, which was an absolute golden opportunity for everyone. Unfortunately, I had already agreed with the principal to tutor his nephew for 2 months. Even so, when I occasionally go out, I still encounter many people who want to ask me to spare even just an hour for their children. What's more, some even started giving gifts to the principal, hoping to send their children to the principal's home so I could teach them as well. The principal turned them all down. However, the teaching materials I compiled were published under the principal's arrangement, along with the top students' notes and the error logbook. After publication, these supplementary materials were immediately sold out. After all, who wouldn't want to get into college and be assigned a job? When my parents found out that I had published a book, they were overjoyed. Before I left for school, they even specially slaughtered a chicken to see me off. You see, poultry was especially precious at that time, often only worth slaughtering on Chinese New Year. When my mother was cooking, she specially chopped up 2 large chicken drumsticks. During the meal, both drumsticks were placed into my bowl. And this was the first time in my life that I had ever eaten chicken drumsticks. These were treatments I had never experienced in my previous life. I wasn't like my sister, who could act cute and please others to get what she wanted. But now that I have the ability, the things I once longed for but could never reach have all come to me so effortlessly. But once you have it, it's just that disenchanted. The next day, I boarded a train heading north. I didn't tell my parents that I had earned nearly 3,000 in royalties from publishing a book. And I also asked the principal to keep it a secret. So when I set off to report to school, I had over 3,000 on me. In this day and age, that was an absolute fortune. After the report, I immediately went to ask about the price of a sihiyuan in the vicinity. In this era, a set of sihiyuan could be bought for just 8,000 yuan. I added up the money I had on me, checked my class schedule, and immediately decided to stock up on some small accessories and cosmetics. These items are also very popular in this era. They take up less space than clothes, which suits someone like me living in a school dormitory. Moreover, I have memories from my past life, so I know which accessories will become wildly popular in the coming years. This greatly increases the efficiency of selling goods. In my first month at Peking University, I earned 1,000 yuan from street vending. My savings have now reached 4,000. The older sister who often helps me secure a stall looks at me with envy. Little girl, you have such good taste. Every time you stock up, the items are beautiful. Even I can't help but want to buy them. I smiled but said nothing. There's someone at the end of the stall who always comes to see what kind of goods you're stocking. She learns from you and sells the same things, making quite a bit of money too. If you could set up your stall all day, you'd probably earn even more than you do now. If only I had your eye for this, I could make a lot more money. She was just chatting with me, but I suddenly thought of a business opportunity. I don't have much time to set up a stall here, but I could help the older sister source goods. It's not convenient for me to stockpile a lot of clothes in the dormitory, but the older sister already runs a clothing stall, so she can. I immediately discussed with sister, saying I would help her source the goods and she would sell them. With the profit split 3,070. I get 30, she gets 70. And the investment costs would also be split according to this ratio. Sister agreed without hesitation. Although we had been vending together for a month and I knew her character, I still wrote a contract and signed it with her very seriously, and clearly explained each clause. I have an additional source of income, and because they know I have a good eye, others have come to me for help with sourcing goods. Since I don't know their character, some have paid me on a one-time basis to accompany them in purchasing stock. So I took over the supply runs. And for the original accessory stall, I had my eldest sister hire someone to look after it for me every day. Aside from attending classes, I went out to help people with their supply sourcing. By the end of the semester, I had earned over 10,000 yuan, enough to buy a fairly nice Sihiyuan courtyard house at that time. Without hesitation, as soon as I had enough money, I went and bought it right away. After all, the Sihiyuan is cheap now. In a few years, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the prices will skyrocket. During winter break, I went home for the new year. On the bus back to the village, I ran into my sister, whom I hadn't seen for nearly half a year. She was holding Sun Huowang's hand, with a noticeable burn scar on her right cheek. I couldn't help but gasp. I remembered, in the first year after I married into the family, Sun Huowang threw a tantrum and deliberately splashed boiling water in my direction. At that time, I was holding a pot lid and blocked it with quick eyes and steady hands. But the boiling water spilled onto the top of my foot, also scalding it and raising many blisters. Even so, I still had to take care of the entire Sun family. Meeting my gaze, my sister flinched as if shocked and said, "What are you looking at? When I have money, I can get skin grafts and plastic surgery. I've long been tired of this face that looks exactly like yours. Just wait. In 2 years, I'll be 100 times more beautiful than you." I let out a sigh. After all, we were twin sisters, so I still tried to reason with her. "It's been a year now. Can't you see it yet? Sun Yulei will never get better in this lifetime. Stop dreaming of being a rich man's wife. Zhao Anmin, stop cursing me." My sister shrieked in anger, even though she had already sensed it. She still couldn't accept the truth and clung to that sliver of hope. But that sliver of hope was never something you could just wait around for. On the back seat of my younger sister, Sun Yulei suddenly poked his head out like a ghost. His sinister eyes glared at me fiercely. I was so startled that I immediately stood up to move forward. I didn't want to sit in the back anymore. But Sun Yulei grabbed my hand tightly, pulling me back, and asked me like a demon. Why is it your sister who married me this time? It should have been you. You were supposed to marry me, take care of my legs, and find a chance to start a business and open a company. I was startled, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free from Sun Yulei's grip. He stared at me fiercely, his entire demeanor overlapping with the Sun Yulei who had controlled me in my past life. That suffocating fear made me tremble uncontrollably. The curious glances around me made me realize that I was on a bus. A college student just back from break. Not the housewife I had been in my past life. I immediately started crying and shouting, "Help! There's a pervert!" As I cried and screamed, I fiercely kicked Sun Yulei's good leg. How dare he recall the events of my past life? Making me toil like a beast of burden for a lifetime wasn't enough. Now he wants me to be the Sun family's drudge again. He's dreaming. Someone in the car heard me shouting like that and saw Sun Yulei's actions. So they immediately got up and came over to help me. "What are you doing? You cripple. Who gave you the right to lay a hand on that young lady? She's my wife." Sun Yulei tried to pull me again. Hearing that, I felt like I had swallowed a fly alive. Utterly disgusted. "Who's your wife? Don't slander me." "Exactly. I know this girl. Isn't she the one who got into Peking University last summer? She's a college student now. Do you really think she'd fancy a cripple like you?" This bus was heading back to our village, so there were quite a few familiar faces on board. Sun Yulei hated hearing the word cripple more than anything in his life. He stiffened his neck and argued back. "She is my wife. In our past life, she was the one who married me." Past life. I could say in my past life I married the Queen Mother of the West. A middle-aged uncle chuckled. His remark made the whole bus burst into laughter. Someone recognized Sun Yulei and immediately pointed at Zhao Anxue, who was sitting dazed in the front seat. "This is your wife. You can't mistake your wife just because she's a twin. Besides, didn't your son leave a mark on your wife's face? Don't tell me you're starting to dislike your wife and thinking about trading her in for a new one." The crowd chattered away. Their malice, typical of rural folk at times, was blunt and straightforward. Sun Yulei, stuck in the middle of the crowd, his expression growing darker by the minute. I was pulled over by a big ant in the front seat. "Sister, sit here with me. Let's see which scumbag dares to come over. I'll break his legs." I was taken care of by the people on the bus. Meanwhile, Sun Yulei and Zhao Anxue started arguing in the back. I caught the gist of it. Sun Yulei was questioning why Zhao Anxue had to marry him, saying she took away his chance to recover. Zhao Anxue also understood that in her past life, the Sun family's sudden wealth actually came from the company I founded. The wealthy family she thought she married into was actually me. She went mad with rage and started wrestling with Sun Yulei right in the back seat, screaming that he was a crippled liar. When they were pulled apart, Sun Yulei was already beaten to the brink of death. I secretly glanced in the middle. Zhao Anxue was going at it with full force. No mercy. After all, Zhao Anxue had endured nearly a year of domestic violence, even cutting ties with her parents, all because she was waiting for Sun Yulei to become a wealthy man in 3 years. Now that it's not happening, all the beatings she took were for nothing. How could she not be furious? Now that her beautiful dream has shattered, Zhao Anxue wishes she could repay it 100-fold. In her past life, she could harden her heart and push me, her own sister, off a cliff. Now, facing a cripple who loves domestic violence, she goes even harder. By the time they got out of the car, Sun Yulei could barely stand. His good leg seemed to be ruined as well. The villagers carried Sun Yulei to the clinic at the village entrance. Seeing his father being beaten, Sun Huang cried out beside him, shouting that Zhao Anxue was a bad woman. He also received 2 slaps, so forceful that they knocked out one of Sun Huang's front teeth. "Keep wailing, and I'll strangle you right now." Zhao Anxue glared at him, her fierce expression silencing even the people in the front of the car who had been laughing and joking. Everyone tacitly accepted this as a family matter and fell silent. Before getting off the car, my sister shot me a venomous look, filled with hatred. I don't care what she thinks. There's no way I'm letting those two lunatics know that I've also been reborn. It seems I can't come back so casually anymore. Even if I go home, I must avoid these two people. This year's New Year was very lively, because I was admitted to Peking University. Many relatives I had never seen before suddenly showed up at home. Everyone at the dinner table wanted to ask me to go teach their own children. There were also people asking me to publish teaching materials. I heard that both the teaching materials and the error notebooks have sold out. Neighbor kids who couldn't understand the error notebooks came to me for help. In the first few days, I could still answer their questions. But later on, there were just too many people. I brought some gifts and went straight to the principal's home. First, I genuinely wanted to thank the principal for helping me publish those teaching aids and error notebooks. And second, I really needed a place to escape the noise. Seeing me arrive, the principal was very happy. His nephew had been admitted to the best top-tier class in our school. And the teaching aids and error notebooks I had proposed were selling so well that the publisher was preparing to reprint them. Just as I came back, they wanted to discuss this matter with me. At that time, I had only prepared 2 main subjects, and they also wanted me to work on some other subjects. I've found all your homework and test papers from back then. This winter break. You'll compile them here at my place, the principal said, taking out a cardboard box. My study aids and error notebooks were all compiled according to the future popular model. People nowadays have no idea what will be popular in the future. Even if they try to fabricate something in my likeness, it always falls short. Principal, you're too kind. I was dizzy from dealing with all those people at home. The principal was practically rescuing me from a dire situation. I picked up the cardboard box and looked at the principal with gratitude. He met my gaze and smiled. I had someone pass a message to my parents. And I stayed at the principal's place. I focused on compiling teaching materials and error notebooks. During the new year, what's more important than working hard to make money? When I returned to school in early spring, I had finished compiling my new teaching materials and error notebooks and handed them over to the principal. Meanwhile, the manuscript fees for the additional print runs of the first 2 subjects, as well as the fees for this most recent assignment, have all been paid to me. The principal chuckled and said, "You're quite the little rich lady now. Have you thought about building a house for your family?" I knew the village head meant no harm by asking that. After all, our house had been around for a while. One of those older houses. But I still shook my head. No rush yet. That's true. Your family only has you, the only daughter left. After you graduate from college, no one knows where you'll be assigned to work. The principal was just making small talk with me, which is very common around here. But it made me fully realize the core of the issue. Sometimes, jealousy runs too deep in rural areas. If I were to build a house for my family now, I would inevitably become an uncontrollable source of financial support for them in the future. Moreover, with Sun Yule and Zhao Anxue around, those 2 crazies, I have no idea what they might do now that they both carry memories of their past lives after being reborn. One thing is certain. If I want to completely change the fate of my past life, I must not return to the village. After returning to school, I focused all my attention back on my studies. Because I figured out the most important thing. The best way to stay away from those leeches is to reach a height they can never attain. I will stay in Beijing. After studying diligently for a month, I feel completely drained. University knowledge is entirely different from high school. It's not something you can master just by putting in the hours. To reward myself, I found the best-rated state-run restaurant off campus. My roommate, who was with me, had something to take care of and would arrive later, so I went in first to order. After handing the menu back to the waiter, I was interrupted by a surprised voice. "And Min, I didn't expect to actually run into you here." I looked up and saw Wang Zhen. Before I could respond, he had already sat down as if we were old friends. I instinctively moved aside. After all, I don't want to have too much contact with anyone who has had any connection with Zhao Anxue. Come do business with me. I know your school gives you a subsidy of over 10 yuan a month. Give me $10. When I make big money, we'll go back to the village and build a big house together. Then we'll make the whole village envy our good life. He got straight to the point, without any small talk. And why should I? I shot back. Of course. It's because we're from the same village. Fellow townsfolk, shouldn't you be helping me? Just then, the waiter served the dishes, and he naturally picked up his chopsticks and took a bite. At the same time, he waved his hand. Waiter, bring 2 bottles of beer. Let's talk over a drink. I was almost amused by his blatant robber logic. He really has some nerve. Your sister said she wronged me, and since you share the same face as her, she told you to make amends to me. She also gave me your address. Though it wasn't very clear, I thought I'd find a job nearby first and wait for you, just to try my luck. I didn't expect I'd actually get to wait for this. Wang Zhen pulled out a slip of paper. My face turned completely cold, and I immediately drove him away. Who gave her the right? Who does she think she is? Why should I apologize to you? Wang Zhen, get out of here right now. Why would I leave? Your sister has already agreed to let me be her brother-in-law. So now I'm practically your fiancé. Not only did Wang Zhen not leave, but he even moved closer to sit beside me. He even made a move as if to hold my hand. I felt as disgusted as if I had swallowed a fly. I never imagined someone could be so thick-skinned. My sister agreed. Go find her then. Harassing me here, I can totally call the police. I roared, putting distance between myself and Wang Zhen. Dealing with a shameless pest. This was the only option left. Who would have thought he still wasn't afraid? Leaning in again. Unmean. We're both from the same place. In such a big city. Of course we should stick together to keep warm. I've been living around here for almost a month just to find you. You can't just turn your back on me like this. Without hesitation, I laid hands on him. A local thugmy sister, in her past life, might have been drawn to Wang Zhen's looks and sweet talk, but all I felt was disgust. Still, there was a gap in physical strength between men and women. Just as Wang Zhen was about to fight back, he was blocked by a tall figure with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. What are you doing? He said sternly. Harassing a student from our school. I can have you handed over to the security office. Wang Zhen was nearly a head shorter than him and couldn't match his presence at all. He could only weakly signal me with his eyes. And Min. Explain quickly. I am the fiancé your sister found for you. What do you mean my sister found me a fiancé? Since when does something like that happen in this world? I'm not that familiar with you either. You're not some human trafficker crawling out of some remote mountain village. Are you? I shouted loudly. The bystanders watching the commotion also furrowed their brows. Yeah, I've heard of parents arranging a fiancé for their daughter. But I've never heard of a younger sister arranging a fiancé for her older sister. A voice from the crowd immediately made Wang Zhen explain. It's an introduction. An introduction, not an arrangement. Then where is my sister? Since she wants to introduce someone to me, why isn't she here? I pressed. Your sister is married. So of course she's living her life in the village. How would she have time to come to the city? Wang Zhen said anxiously. He explained frantically. But the more he explained, the more he seemed like a human trafficker. I've been seeing him hanging around here a lot lately. Like some unemployed drifter. Dressed all shabby like that. He couldn't really be a kidnapper, could he? I've heard that someone actually went to the police recently. And I heard someone has gone missing. The crowd chattered noisily, directly surrounding Wang Zhen, led by the person from just now. Everyone directly treated Wang Zhen as a suspicious person and sent him to the police station on the next street. The surroundings finally returned to calm, and I looked gratefully at the person who had helped me out. The roommate who had agreed earlier rushed over in a hurry. Bro, how are you with my roommate? Roommate Xiaowen asked, full of surprise. This is your brother. This is your roommate. Both the other person and I were very surprised. My roommate pulled us to sit down and eat, introducing us to each other. The person who stood up for me was Li Wenquan, my roommate's older brother. 2 years ahead of us in school. He had just completed a research project today and wanted to celebrate on his own by getting a meal. He was sitting at the table right next to mine and witnessed the entire conversation between Wang Zhen and me. He couldn't stand by and came over to stand up or me. How did you know we were from the same school? I asked curiously. He scratched his head a little sheepishly. Actually, I didn't know. I only said that to scare him. This restaurant is near our school, so the chances of diners being fellow students are pretty high. Right. We couldn't help but burst out laughing. Li Wenxuan brought the dishes to our table. The three of us had a lively meal together. This marked a complete acquaintance. He is our senior, and we can actually discuss many of the knowledge points we don't understand with him. After all, with so many people in university, it's impossible for everyone to consult the professors. By the artificial lake and in the library, these have become our discussion spots. Studying has become more interesting. I only occasionally go out on weekends to help with restocking or go over and check the bills with my elder sister. Of course, I never told anyone about my secret stall. Having lived a lifetime, I knew that some things must never be revealed from the very beginning. My roommate only knew that I came from a small town and had to work on weekends to help support my family. She probably thought I was just picking up some part-time job outside. Actually, I've now bought a second Sihiyuan courtyard house and also taken over a storefront, letting my eldest sister run a clothing and accessory shop. I'm still in charge of sourcing stock, while she handles sales. Business at the shop has been so good that we're too busy to keep up. So we've hired a few new employees. Now, I guess you could say I'm a low-key little rich woman. While I was studying desperately, hoping to secure a Beijing hukou and settle down permanently, I received news from home. A major incident had occurred in my family, and my parents asked me to return. The letter didn't specify what the major incident was. Unmean, could it be that guy who harassed you last time? Don't tell me your family is going to marry you off or sell you. Xiaowen usually loved listening to gossip regarding the common practice in small towns of forcing daughters into marriage for high bride prices. She had heard no fewer than 100 versions of such stories. Now, upon reading my letter, she couldn't help but worry for me. Do you have a younger brother at home, now of an age to take a wife? I shook my head. My family just has a pair of twin daughters. I thought this would put my roommate at ease. But instead, she became even more anxious and concerned. That's bad. In a family like that, it's easiest to buy a boy from outside or adopt one from a branch with many sons. Unmean, you have to be careful when you go home. If your family asks you to do anything illegal, you absolutely must not agree. And as for this degree, whoever earns it gets to keep it for their own family. It can't be given away. Xiaowen slapped her forehead and frantically gave me instructions. I knew she meant no harm, so I smiled and told her not to worry. Although my parents also somewhat favor boys over girls, they wouldn't go so far as to do something like that. Chances are, my sister is up to some kind of mischief again. No. I still think it's too dangerous for you to go back alone. Why don't you find someone to go with you? My brother is fine. He doesn't have many classes right now and just finished an experiment, so he has time. Xiaowen tugged at me. It was me who was supposed to go home. But she was even more nervous than I was. Don't worry, I'll be careful. I patted Xiaowen's hand and declined her suggestion. After all, I was the one taking leave to go home, and dragging a classmate along with me. And on top of that, a man's gossip in the village would crush me. Besides, my family doesn't really have any extra space. If Li Wenxuan came back with me, there might not even be a place for him to stay. I busied myself with packing, planning to ask for leave from school today and head straight to the station to buy a ticket tomorrow with my luggage. I still need to make a trip back home. Xiaowen kept watching me pack by the bedside, her gaze so intense it felt like it could burn a hole right through me. I sighed helplessly. Xiaowen, I'm just going home, not stepping into some den of danger. I know, but last time, wasn't there a human trafficker in your village who claimed to be your fiancé? I'm worried about you. Xiaowen brought up what happened that day at the meal again. She kept rambling on. My parents won't agree. Don't worry, even in our village, Wang Zhen's family wasn't well off. In the past life, my sister ended up with Wang Zhen purely out of willfulness. Deceived by his sweet talk, my parents don't think highly of Wang Zhen. Now that I've been admitted to university, There's absolutely no way my parents would rush me into marriage. I have full confidence in my parents on this matter. But Xiaowen doesn't know my family that well and is still full of worry. After I finished packing, I couldn't help but blurt out. Then you must remember to come back safely. My brother hasn't even had a chance to confess yet. My hand, holding the suitcase, froze as I looked at Xiaowen in disbelief. Her brother. Confess. I had always thought we were just classmates with a good relationship. Having been through a marriage, I spent my whole life desperately trying to change my fate. So that thought never even crossed my mind. Seeing me frozen in place, Xiaowen, with a look of having nothing left to lose, said to me frantically, "Yeah, Anmin, I really like you. I want you to be my sister-in-law. My brother likes you too. Our family is native to Beijing. My parents are university professors. And they are very open-minded. They definitely don't hold any patriarchal ideas. In the future, they won't interfere much in your and my brother's personal lives." This information hit me so hard that my head was spinning. My family still doesn't know what's going on. And now this comes along. Dear Anmin, just consider my brother. I know you're very accomplished. But my brother isn't bad either. He'll be assigned a job next year, most likely near home. I interrupted Xiaowen. After all, it's too early to talk about all of this now. No one's confession is delivered by their sister-in-law. Did I say something wrong? Xiaowen, realizing what she had just done, covered her mouth with a look of how could I have said all that. My brother originally told me not to say anything. But seeing how anxious you are to go back, I was afraid you'd be dragged down by your family. So I couldn't help it. I know you mean well. Just pretend you never said this. As for how things are between me and your brother, we'll talk about it when I get back. I comforted Xiaowen. I took leave. It was only the next day, when I was heading to the station, that Li Wenchuan came to see me off. He carried my luggage for me. "I heard you're going back, so I came to see you off at the station," he said, rushing over. After listening to Xiaowen pour out her heart like a string of beans last night, my feelings toward Li Wenchuan were now a bit complicated. After all, I had only thought he was tutoring his sister, which was why the three of us often discussed problems together. But thinking about it carefully, before we got to know each other last semester, Li Wenchuan had hardly ever shown up. Suddenly showing concern for his own sister this semester, that seems a bit too strange. So there really is a possibility that Li Wenchuan has taken a liking to me. We didn't speak a word along the way. As he saw me onto the train, he looked at me earnestly and said, "I know it's presumptuous to say this, but you must remember me, sister, and I will both be waiting for you at school. If anything comes up, remember to write to us. If you can't handle it, I could actually buy a ticket and come help you." I accepted Li Wenchuan's kindness, but simply waved my hand at him. I still chose to go back on my own. As for matters of the heart, let's talk about them after I graduate from college. When I arrived at the village and just got off the car, the village chief spotted me. He hurried over. "Xiaomen, you're finally back. Something big has happened at your home. And your parents are worried to death. What exactly is the village chief's matter? Just tell me quickly. Don't keep me guessing." I was really fed up with these people at home. The letter didn't say what it was about. And even when we got to the doorstep, they still only spoke halfway. This made it impossible for me to find a breakthrough, even if I wanted to help the family solve the problem. "Your sister and brother-in-law got into a fight, resulting in 2 deaths. Now your sister has been arrested. And the Sun family is blocking your doorstep every day demanding an explanation." The village chief pulled me toward his home and finally told me the detailed account of the incident. My sister got into a physical fight with Sun Yulei, choked Sun Huang to death in a fit of rage, and then, during the struggle with Sun Yulei, struck him dead with a hoe. You have no idea, Sun Yulei's brains were splattered everywhere. When we went inside, the Sun family's house was covered in brains and blood. You can't imagine how terrifying that scene was. After hearing this, I felt dizzy. Zhao Anxue committed intentional homicide. She is my twin sister. My political background check is ruined. Sure enough, when I arrived at my doorstep, Sun's parents were all gathered around my house. Seeing me approach, Sun's parents let out a wail and rushed over. Your Zhao family must pay for my son. Pay for my eldest grandson. That venomous sister of yours our Sun family fed and clothed her well. And this is how she repays us. The village chief quickly intervened, just barely stopping them from clawing at my face. Aunt Sun, let's talk inside. What do you mean? Go inside to talk. The Zhao family can do such a thing. And you won't even let me speak. Sun's mother wailed bitterly. My poor son. My poor grandson. Their bodies are already cold. And that murderous Zhao Anxue actually ran away. I frowned, thinking Zhao Anxue had already been arrested. But it turned out she had fled. No wonder the Sun family was now all gathered outside my door. The village chief's expression darkened as he listened. But he didn't intend to let the Sun family lay a hand on me. He called me back to solve the problem, not to turn it into another criminal incident. Seeing that none of us spoke, the Sun family grew even more emboldened, practically pointing at my forehead and shouting. It must be the Zhao family who helped hide them. I won't go inside. I want everyone to see what the Zhao family is really like. Village chief. This family is full of murderers. You can't harbor murderers. This was done by my sister. Coming after us won't do any good. I hardened my face and took a firm stance. Upon hearing this, Sun's parents were even more furious, nearly fainting. Just because your sister did it. Does that mean you have nothing to do with it? You share the same blood. Your whole family are murderers. The door was suddenly yanked open from the inside. My parents finally couldn't hold back anymore. They pulled the door open and said sternly. I haven't seen Xiaoxue in half a year. The police will figure out the truth once they catch the culprit. What's the use of you Sun family members blocking our doorstep every day making a scene? When the Sun family saw my parents come out, they went wild with rage. They demanded that my parents pay with their son's life. But Sun Yulei and Sun Huowang were already long dead. Even if my parents were killed, their lives couldn't be repaid. They shouted that if my parents couldn't pay, then our whole family should die. Since the Sun family has no descendants left, they no longer care about their own lives and are determined to make our family pay the price. Amid the heated argument, the police arrived. They had caught my sister and were now bringing her to identify the scene. Damn you. Pay for my son's life with yours. Go die. Why don't you execute her? Officer, she's a murderer. You should execute her right now. Sun's mother was crying so hard she was about to faint. The Sun family wanted to take matters into their own hands. But the police stopped them. The police have their procedures for law enforcement, and they wouldn't change them just because someone caused a scene. On the contrary, the Sun family's commotion disrupted the normal order that should have been maintained here. And they were warned. My younger sister got off the police car. Compared to the last time she came home, she now looks even more aged and exhausted. Now, not only is half of her face disfigured, but even the other half, which was still intact, is now covered with many bruises from being beaten. Old wounds mixed with new ones, all from different times. It's very likely the result of a mutual fight with Sun Yulei. After all, the village chief just told me that since the beginning of this year, he's heard a lot about these two fighting each other, and the fights are getting more and more brutal. In the past, we would make up on our own after fighting, but in the later fights, we wouldn't stop until one of us was sent to the hospital. Moreover, my sister's left hand was dislocated during a fight before, and it was the village chief who helped put it back. Zhao Anxue saw me and curled her lips with a vengeful pleasure. So what if you get into college? Your political review won't pass. And you won't be assigned a job. I never imagined that Zhao Anxue would go to such lengths to get revenge on me. I won't pass the political review. Do you think you'll have it easy? Murder is against the law. You'll face the firing squad. I was absolutely furious with this foolish sister of mine. So what? Zhao Anmin. I can start over. But in this timeline, you'll have to endure the pain of never passing the political review forever. She let out a low laugh. Like a complete lunatic. She thought I hadn't been reborn. And that even if she died, she could start over. How naive. Rebirth isn't something as common as a head of cabbage. How could it be something you can just do over whenever you want? I don't know what caused us to have a second chance in my past life. But now, dead is dead. There is absolutely no chance to do it over again. When my mother heard my sister's words, she fainted from sheer anger. She could never have imagined that the daughter she had raised as a delicate treasure since childhood would turn out to be so extreme, using her own life to frame her own sister. How could she do such a thing? The scene was in complete chaos. My dad rushed my mom to the hospital for emergency treatment. I followed the crowd to watch my sister identify the scene. The Sun family kept cursing non-stop, shouting for the police to just execute my sister by firing squad without a trial, since she had already confessed. In the midst of all this turmoil, my sister was sentenced to death, to be carried out 2 months later. My parents were so shocked that their hair turned gray almost overnight. There's no way to keep living in the village anymore. After all, the Sun family lost 2 important sons. The blow was just too heavy. But in the courtroom, the truth that was finally revealed left everyone in stunned silence. Sun's parents said they would take good care of this daughter-in-law. But in reality, from the moment she entered the house, Zhao Anxue had to empty the urine bucket for her disabled husband and learn to give him massages. Sometimes, if she accidentally triggered Sun Yulei in some way, he would beat her with his crutch. Of course, at first, the beatings were always on parts of the body that couldn't be seen. When it came to meals, she had to wait until the whole family had finished eating before she could have some leftovers. And then she had to wash the dishes immediately, if she was even a little slow. Sun's mother would scold her. She would say that the daughter-in-law they had brought home was a lazy bone who didn't like to work, and that the bride price they had paid would have been better spent on buying a dog, which at least knew how to bark. Sun Huowang, this little demon, is even worse. The stepmother, who isn't even called a stepmother, constantly uses underhanded tricks to torment Zhao Anxue, piling countless unjust blame onto her. And Zhao Anxue, initially fixated on the wealth and luxury awaiting her in 3 years, kept trying to please this family, enduring all these troubles in silent submission. It wasn't until she met me on the bus, when Sun Yulei was also reborn, that she realized through our conversation that this family wasn't as powerful as she'd thought. She couldn't take care of Sun Yulei's recovery as meticulously as her past life self. Nor did she have the ability to start a company and earn a fortune. Thinking about how she had been worn down for so long, only to see her dream of becoming a wealthy wife shatter, she completely lost it and stopped pretending afterward. But since she had already fallen out with her parents, she didn't want to go home either. She only wanted to take revenge for all the grievances and suffering she had endured before. In fact, Sun's parents even said that Zhao Anxue had previously used rat poison to cook rice, because Sun's mother had a keen sense of smell and detected something was off, and also noticed the rat poison at home was gone. She didn't eat it, which is why nothing happened. Otherwise, not a single member of his family would have survived. We can no longer live in the village now. The Sun family keeps coming to our doorstep to cause trouble, and since Zhao Anxue killed 2 of their people, compensation is required. Finally, I discussed it with my family and decided to compensate the Sun family with all our land and house. This is everything we have. There's nothing more. Of course, I'm not going to take out my own things to clean up Zhao Anxue's mess. I told my parents we could set up a stall in the north or find a job at a shop. Better not go south. The family should stay together. They agreed. Before setting off, we went to see my younger sister. Her long hair had been cut into a short bob. The moment my mother saw her, she couldn't hold back her tears. Xiaoxue has always loved looking pretty. Yes, ever since we were young. My younger sister has always been better at dressing up than me. She loves braiding all kinds of pretty little braids and putting on the most beautiful dresses. But now, her face is covered with scars from burns and beatings. There are also many scars on her arms, all of which were inflicted by Sun Yulei. In my past life, I had already told my sister that the life I lived was not as happy as she imagined. I wanted to roll up my sleeves to show her the layers of scars, but she said I was showing off the gold jewelry on my wrist. I explained that Sun Yulei bought it for me to save face. She reached out her hand and said, "If you don't like saving face, Then give it to me. I shook my head and refused, explaining that if I gave it to her, I would get beaten when I got home. But she stubbornly believed I was making excuses. And in the end, she didn't hesitate to push me off the cliff. This is my younger sister. After Mom and Dad had cried enough, I finally got the microphone. I only wanted to ask one question. Why do you hate me so much? We're twin sisters by all accounts. We should be the closest siblings in the world. You stole all the nutrients from me when I was in the womb, making me weak and sickly since childhood. And even less clever than you. If it weren't for you, all of Mom and Dad's love would be mine. You took everything from me. And you have the nerve to ask me why. These two sentences were practically squeezed out from between my sister's teeth. I looked at her, utterly disappointed. This is my own younger sister. There's no point in saying more. I took the microphone, ready to put it back in place, when my sister's scream came from the other end. Zhao Anmin, just you wait. In the next life, I will definitely live better than you. I will make the most correct choice. And one day you'll look up to me. There has never been such a thing as the right choice. Life is something you live, not something you get by just making a choice and waiting around. Those were the last words I ever said to my sister in this lifetime. Of course, I also know that she won't listen. And she won't believe it either. This time when I went back to school, I bought 3 tickets for the 3 of us in the family. After getting off the car, I told my parents that I would rent a house for them near the school. Of course, the rented house was mine. And the rent was paid by my parents to me. I picked out the goods for them and told them where they could set up a stall. Naturally, it wasn't on the street where I used to set up my stall. Since everyone knew me there, I didn't want my parents to know how much money I had made besides going to school. They are in the prime of their lives. So naturally they must have the ability to support themselves. I returned to school and didn't tell Xiaowen about what happened at home. After all, it involved a political review, so the matter was far too serious. When she saw me back in the dormitory, she was overjoyed and insisted on treating me to a meal. My brother is coming too, so the 3 of us can finally be together again. Seeing Xiaowen so carefree, I couldn't help but smile too. It's much more relaxing at school. My days returned to how they were before from Monday to Friday. I'd go to the library with the 2 of them at school. On Saturdays and Sundays, I'd go to the shop to help out, check the order volume, and handle the profit splits. Of course, now it's a bit more. I also need to go see my parents. They weren't used to it when they first arrived, but knowing they couldn't go back to the village, they could only work even harder. During the new year, they told me they no longer wanted to set up a stall and instead wanted to get a small cart to sell food. After all, there are too many people setting up stalls now. You bring in something new today, and by tomorrow the market is flooded with it. Along with price wars, both of them are honest farmers, not as smooth-tongued as those stallholders. Others speak with great eloquence, while the 2 of them often stumble over their words. So even when I picked products based on what I remembered was popular, they didn't sell well. My mom has a great skill. She's really good at making the local snacks from our hometown. They noticed that no one here was selling them. Besides, when it comes to food, even if you try to replicate it, the taste will always be different depending on who makes it. I supported my mom, and based on the snacks I often saw later in my memory, I had her try out a few more recipes. After the new year, my mom set up her small stall. She had great skills, and the snacks she made were the ones that had been popular in my memory for as long as I could remember. So she quickly attracted a large number of customers. The business was much better than I had imagined. The couple worked hard every day, and their once worried faces finally began to show more smiles. My academic performance also improved dramatically, excelling in every subject. Xiaowen kept saying every day that I had a smart brain and insisted that I become her sister-in-law. Her brother confessed to me at graduation, and his job assignment was no surprise. It was right here in the local area. From every perspective, Li Wenchuan was an outstanding person. However, given the major incident that had happened in my family, I did not agree to be with him. I remember the look on my face that day, utterly defeated. He asked me, Am I not up to your standards for a partner? No. You're great. It's my own issue. I shook my head. I used my studies as an excuse. I said I didn't know if I could stay in Beijing. If I were eventually assigned a job far away from him. I felt I couldn't manage a long-distance relationship. Maybe I just made a poor excuse. Li Wenchuan was stubborn in believing that I answered that way only because he hadn't given me enough security, which led to my worries. He started looking for me even more often. Sometimes he'd bring me trendy new things from outside. Other times he'd come over to discuss an academic issue with me. Sometimes it's a book, or treating me to a movie. Every good thing he could think of, he wanted to give to me. He expressed to me with an extremely serious attitude that he truly believed I was the one and wanted to be with me. I confessed to Li Wenchuan that there was an issue with my political background check, and I wouldn't be able to secure a stable government job in the future. With his family background, he would never allow any stain on his future daughter-in-law. Even if that stain wasn't caused by me, he firmly assured me that this matter wouldn't affect us. Nowadays, many people succeed in business. If I don't end up being assigned a good job, he can open a shop for me. He also told me that his aunt is doing business in the south and making a lot of money, and that I could learn from her when the time comes. Being a boss is no worse than holding an iron rice bowl. Seeing that he was genuinely thinking about our future and had a problem-solving attitude, I finally agreed to be with him. After all, it's rare to meet someone sincere. And on top of that, his sister is my very close roommate. You can get a rough idea of what the other family is really like. In my junior year, I carefully pooled together my money and leased a storefront on a street that would later become very bustling. In the future, this would be Quanju's century-old store. But for now, it was mine. After leasing it, I hired workers to renovate it in the style of a snack shop. Half a year later, the store was fully renovated. I gave this store to my mom as her 40th birthday gift. Xiaomin, are you kidding me? This store is ours, my mom exclaimed, her eyes wildly scanning the store's decor. She was clearly overjoyed. But the moment she thought about such a large store, it all felt surreal to her. After all, we even lost our own house. With no land and no house. 2 years later, we had our own shop. No kidding. Remember the royalties I got from publishing before? Plus the school subsidies and the pocket money you and Dad usually gave. Methods how I managed to take over the place. Yes, since my sister's accident, Mom and Dad have become especially afraid that something might happen to me too. Every week when I come home, they make time to talk with me and give me plenty of pocket money. They say that at the stall, they've heard many stories of young women being tricked by delinquents. They say girls should be raised with abundance, being frugal at home but generous on the road, so it's better for me to have some money on me at school. Every time they gave me something, I never refused. I just quietly saved it up, thinking about how to maximize the returns on this wealth. My parents' eyes were now completely wet. They looked at me, their lips trembling. We never expected that in the end. You would be the most filial. I paused. I knew they were thinking of my sister again. Back then, they forcibly locked me in the room, demanding that I hand over my tutoring fees to help my sister get a divorce. Now, they are filled with guilt toward me. Come on, let's go in and take a look. I changed the subject. No matter what happens, we are still family. It's impossible to truly live like enemies for a lifetime. Mom and Dad wiped their eyes and followed me into the store. At that moment, they secretly resolved in their hearts to treat me even better in the future. The interior decoration was all remodeled to look like the trendy snack shops I remembered from later years. And my parents were absolutely thrilled. The old couple was busy planning what to put here and what to put there. From now on, they wouldn't have to endure the sun and rain, nor brave the wind and snow in the dead of winter just to boil hot water. My parents' snack shop opened smoothly. There was a sign placed at the spot where I used to set up my stall, indicating the location of the new shop. Old regulars came looking for the place. Old Xiao, now that you've opened a shop, it's much more convenient for us to eat. This seat is just right. Is this your daughter? She's lovely. The opening day was bustling with activity, and I was helping out too. Sister-in-law, A startled cry rang out. I looked up and saw Xiaowen. She was accompanied by a man and a woman. From their appearance, which bore a 4- or 5-fold resemblance to Xiaowen, I immediately guessed that they were her parents, who were also my future parents-in-law. I had imagined many scenarios for meeting my future parents-in-law, but I never expected it to be under such circumstances. Xiaomin, come over quickly and help serve the dishes for table 7. My mom shouted from the kitchen. I didn't have time to explain to Xiaomin and immediately went over to help serve the food. Xiaowen found a seat inside and sat down. Next to them were a few regular customers who knew my parents. The conversation at my table is now discussing my family situation. I never expected old Zhao to have raised such a lovely girl. And I heard she's even a college student. My nephew happens to be around the same age. I think I could talk to old Zhao and set something up. Hey, my son is also a college student. They'd have common topics to talk about. Xiaowen was originally explaining to her parents why she called me sister-in-law, but as soon as she heard the neighboring table talking like this, she immediately shouted, "Sister-in-law, is this restaurant run by your family? I'll come help you too." Xiaowen enthusiastically dashed into the kitchen to help serve plates. I could feel the burning gaze of my parents. Even though they were clearly swamped with work, they still seized the opportunity to corner me and press for answers. Where did this girl come from? Why did she call you sister-in-law the moment she saw you? Are you in a relationship? My parents fired off 3 relentless questions. I had never felt such an overwhelming sense of pressure from them before. Marriage isn't necessarily a good thing. You have to keep your eyes wide open and not just settle for anyone. The rules are even stricter in big cities. After going through my sister's marriage, my parents clearly have some trauma when it comes to marrying off a daughter. They told me to focus on my studies and not rush into marriage. They said it's okay to date, but I must think carefully before getting married. They've also matured a lot themselves. After all the diners had left, only my parents and Xiaowen remained in the shop. My mom took out a 100 yuan note. "Little girl, you must be tired from all the hard work." "Auntie, I volunteered to help my sister-in-law." "No need for money." Xiaowen quickly pushed it back. "I had my own reasons for helping just now. Auntie, my family is very kind. Please don't arrange a match for my sister-in-law." Xiaowen has never been good at keeping secrets, perhaps because of her happy family atmosphere. She always speaks her mind directly. My parents exchanged a glance, at a loss for what to do with Xiaowen. Xiaomin is still young. There's no rush for marriage, my father stated. Xiaowen looked as if the sky had fallen. When we were heading back to the dorm at night, she secretly asked me if she had been too rash, causing my parents to dislike her. "Even though you're marrying my brother, if your parents don't like me as your sister-in-law, it might affect their impression of my brother too." She scratched her head frantically, her face full of regret. She had a look that said, "Why was I so impulsive as to run into the kitchen and serve dishes?" "Don't worry. My parents just don't want me to get married so soon. They have no problem with you," I reassured Xiaowen. I still haven't told Xiaowen about my sister's situation. After all, she's too innocent to keep a secret. The next day, Li Wenquan came to my family's shop with gifts. He apologized for his sister's rash behavior yesterday and also explained why his parents left early after the meal. Yesterday, they were just diners who came for a meal. But today he came to visit my parents in a proper manner. He said that if my parents think he's acceptable, he will arrange for both families to meet later. Li Wenquan's politeness kept my parents from kicking him out. They only said I was still young and that this matter could be discussed later. In my senior year, I graduated as an outstanding graduate. Because of my sister, some important positions would never be open to me. I chose to start my own business. The field of future technology will be highly advanced. I established my own company and began recruiting tech talents who would later become household names. Having been reborn, I have a vivid memory of many future trends and well-known advertisements. My company's performance is very good. My parents' snack shop has also opened chain stores. 2 years after graduation, my parents finally relented. They allowed me to get married. Li Wenquan immediately brought his parents to visit. My future in-laws, both professors, were indeed easy to talk to and open-minded. My parents felt much more at ease and began seriously preparing my dowry. 6 months later, I got married. Besides the usual dowry items, my parents gave me a Sihyuan courtyard house as part of my marriage settlement. They couldn't understand why I wanted a Sihyuan so badly. After all, it was just a shabby little courtyard that cost over 10,000 yuan. Nowhere near as impressive as the newly built apartment buildings outside. I didn't explain. When they see housing prices skyrocket in the future, they'll understand why I spent every bit of spare cash buying these little rundown courtyards. After all, they're the real gold mines of this era. Li Wenchuan knew I liked them. So among the dowry he gave, there were also 2 Sihyuan courtyard houses. After marriage, Li Wenchuan worked at the National Research Institute, while I ran my own small company. Whenever we had free time, we would stick together. Even just leaning against each other in the simplest way made us feel incredibly happy. I don't know whether my younger sister has been reborn or not, but fate has always been something we carve out on our own.